We bring in now Tulsi Gabbard, former congresswoman from Hawaii, in the mix for potentially being vice president for Donald Trump. And Tulsi, we got a lot we'd like to hit with you. Appreciate you joining us. Would you have ever believed that college campuses would be taken over by left-wingers and that they would be preventing Jewish students, for instance, on UCLA from being able to walk through different parts of campus because they were Jewish? Would you have thought that you would see that in your life?
You know, we've seen protests over generations on college campuses across the country. This has become increasingly so as we look at the woke academics, professors who've taken over so many of our universities. What I would not have imagined is the blatant, overt, it's worse than anti-Semitism because they're directly threatening violence or actually engaging in violence, taking over these Ivy League schools, taking over different universities, and saying things. I mean, when you listen to what they are saying, these are not peaceful protesters calling for a ceasefire. These are people who are repeating violent lines coming from Hamas itself, an Islamist terrorist group. People who are saying October 7th, the tragic, horrific attack that Hamas waged against Israel, they say October 7th should happen 10,000 times over. You have some professors at some of these Ivy League universities celebrating October 7th, calling that terrorist attack an awesome day. I never would have imagined that here in the United States, we would have young Americans in our universities celebrating a radical Islamist terrorist group in Hamas that is no different than Al-Qaeda or ISIS. This is more than the problems with law and order and the fact that we've got students and faculty and professors, Jewish students, faculty, and professors who cannot walk through these schools, and other students who are not Jewish who don't feel safe in their schools. Bigger than that, we have this ideological warfare being waged by a radical Islamist terrorist group that is taking over our university, many of our universities here in the United States. This should be a major wake-up call to everyone in this country, because what these terrorists want is not only to wage these kinetic type of attacks, they are waging ideological warfare with the goal being to establish Islamist governance and make us all live under Sharia law. That is their end state.
Speaking to Tulsi Gabbard, she's got a book that just came out yesterday, For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind. And Tulsi, to that end, one of the things that's getting a fair amount of attention is the Biden administration's whiplash on this issue, where, you know, the back and forth, the both sidesism, we don't want anti-Semitism, but we also don't want anti-Islamism or whatever. Does Biden effectively have an impossible task because, as far as he's concerned, he can't alienate even those who are anti-Semites who love Hamas? Like, why is this so hard for him?
He, like too many of the Democrats in power today, these politicians in Washington, they are terrified of anger, the pro-Hamas apologist faction within the Democrats. As you pointed out, they're labeled Islamophobe. They are too lack the capability of the distinction of radical Islam and goals and objectives of exterminating all people, of kill.
Let's, Tulsi, I'm sorry to cut you off. We're having a little bit of a breakup. Let's go to break right now.
Welcome back into Clay and Buck. We still have Tulsi Gabbard with us now. She's a combat veteran currently serving as lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. New book out, For Love of Country, just came out yesterday. Tulsi, I want to jump right back into it. We just had a little bit of a comms issue there. So why is it so hard for Biden and this White House to have moral clarity on the issue of the campus protests?
You know, it's very telling that President Biden himself has not spoken out about these protests happening in campuses across the country. And it's coming from one of two places. One is he's either intellectually incapable of making the argument and the distinction to say, yes, I stand against anti-Semitism and I stand against radical Islamist terrorists like Hamas and the ideology that they are propagating. Or he is terrified of being called an Islamophobe, which is why he is being silent and cannot make that statement that I just made with strength and clarity and unequivocation. We look at the lack of rule of law being enforced, how basic law enforcement are being called in long after these people have been disrupting the peace and making these campuses unsafe for others. President Biden is so terrified of losing a few votes amongst those who are pro-Hamas or Hamas apologists that he is failing at this very moment when the country needs to hear with a clear voice from the President of the United States that in this free country, Jewish people, everyone must be allowed to walk safely and free in our society. You look again, another issue where there's a clear contrast between President Trump and President Biden. I heard President Trump's statement loud and clear that was similar to the one that I just stated, pointing to the action that should be taken, and yet President Biden is completely silent at this moment.
Tulsi, you and I have a similar political evolution, I think, in many ways. I voted Democrat. You were a Democrat in Congress. And then I think we both started seeing all the craziness going on. One of the reasons why I think you would make an intriguing VP choice for Trump is because you could speak to maybe, I think, a lot of the people out there who have had a similar political evolution as you and I have, and are out there willing to vote for someone different if they acknowledge the fact that they have had that political evolution. Do you think you could make that case as Trump's VP to independent voters who might not have been willing to vote for him in 16 or 20? And what would you say if Trump came to you and said, Tulsi, I think you're the right choice for VP for me. I think you're still a registered independent. Would you be willing to become a Republican to run and make that case?
A few important points you brought up there, Clay. Yes, I am uniquely able to connect with people across the country who have walked a similar path that you and I have, regardless of their political affiliation. They may still be Democrats, or they may have left the Democratic Party, but people who are looking for someone to say, hey, come and stand with us as Americans who love our country, who cherish peace and freedom, and who are deeply concerned about how the Biden-Harris administration is undermining some of the most fundamental principles that make our country what it is, that make this country great. I have no doubt, because I've been already connecting and hearing from people who saw what I said when I left the Democratic Party, who are starting to read my book and say, hey, my gosh, this is exactly what I've been feeling and what I've been thinking. This is an essential opportunity to bring people together at a time when we need it in order to save our country. If President Trump asked me to serve as his running mate to help beat Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in this election so that we can begin the important work of saving our country, I would be honored to do so. And I would work tirelessly to make this happen because, like him, like you, like most Americans, I love our country. And I believe that we can save our country, but only if we take action now.
And Tulsi, have you and the president spoken recently? Just curious what you can tell us. I know you did a fundraiser with him a little while back at Mar-a-Lago. I'm wondering, one, if you've at least had conversations with him about how you would like to help in a future Trump administration. And if not, if you can't speak to that, I also wanted to know just what you think about what's going on. You mentioned love of country. I think it's very hard for anyone to see what's going on in New York City and not feel like something very fundamental about this nation is being damaged when a political, the nominee effectively for a political party is being used in this way and attacked in this way.
Yes, President Trump and I have spoken, and I won't share the contents of a private conversation, but he knows what motivates me. He knows my loyalty and my commitment to serving our country, and I look forward to, and I'm hopeful of the opportunity to be able to be in a position where we can not only get our domestic policy back on track, but also get our foreign policy in order and walk us back from the brink of World War III and nuclear war. What's happening here, and I'm calling you from New York City today, where President Biden and his administration are engaging in this lawfare, tying up the presumptive Republican nominee in court as long as possible and wherever possible to keep him off the campaign trail and drain him of time and resources. I hope that more and more Americans are seeing what they're doing for what it is and how undemocratic it is. This is undermining our democracy and our ability as Americans to have a free and fair election. The thing that Democrats claim to stand for, they are the ones who are actually undermining our democracy. We have to point out that truth and make sure that those who aren't watching it as closely as you and I may be understand the reality about what's going on and the doublespeak and hypocrisy between what the Democrat elites say and what they're actually doing, because what they're doing is dangerous.
I agree with just about everything you're saying, Tulsi. Some people will call into us, they will email us, and they will say, well, given the fact that Trump is 77 years old, I believe, and he's going to be, if he wins in 2024, an older president, the oldest president right alongside of Biden that we could possibly have, you might, as VP, have to end up being the president. I mean, that's a real concern with obviously Kamala Harris. It would be the same concern with Trump, even more so with age. It's always a concern with VP. What would you say to people who say she's a Democrat? I'm not sure if I could trust her given she's going to be a heartbeat away from the presidency.
I'm not a Democrat. I've always been an independent-minded person. I left the Democratic Party almost 2 years ago. More important than that, though, I would just encourage people to listen to what I'm saying, not only now, but what I have been saying and the things that I have been working on for our country for quite some time. I was no sweetheart of the Democratic Party while I was in Congress, specifically because I challenged them on the issues where they were undermining our country's interests, the interests of the American people, and called them out when they were wrong. There are going to be some issues we agree on or disagree on, but fundamentally, I am committed to protecting and defending the Constitution of the United States, taking that oath that I swore both as a member of Congress and as a soldier where I still serve to heart. This is an unwavering commitment, and my desire to serve the American people is rooted in that commitment.
We have a link up to Tulsi's book at clayandbuck.com, so if you want to go and get your copy today. For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind. Tulsi, we always appreciate when you make time for us, and we hope down the line there's some exciting news about how you can continue to serve the country in a new role. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Clay. Great to talk to you. Aloha.
Aloha. So, Clay, I got to say, it would be very interesting, and I think that there's a lot that would come from adding her into the situation with Donald Trump. Because I believe that she's a convert, effectively. I don't think that she's somebody who still harbors. I mean, you can tell she has seen the Democrat beast and does not want to be any part of it anymore, and has really left that party. And I think to your point about if you're trying to win over independents and people, you got right-wing ground pounders like me who are like, I've been right-wing since I could spell my name. Yeah, well, we got a lot of those listening right now, obviously. But if you want to win over some of those middle-of-the-road folks or some of those people who are the persuadables, I think somebody who has herself been persuaded, truly persuaded. I believe in her conversion. I mean, having spoken to her privately and personally, I don't think she's playing some game now. I think she knows, oh my gosh, the Democrats are destroying the country. I got to stop this.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear from some of y'all out there who heard that interview, 800-282-2882. I think she's firmly in the mix to be the next vice president for Trump. I think Trump likes her. The reason I like her, and I'm not picking who I think would be the best VP. I've said that I think Tim Scott is going to be the pick, and I still do. But the thing that I like about her is, obviously, you heard the question. I have had a similar political evolution as her, and I think sometimes when you've seen that evolution, you are more committed than somebody might have been if you've been a Republican for 40 years. I think she's scared of where she sees the country going, and I just told you, I feel like right now, from a metaphor perspective, back in the day, this is like a stagecoach that's out of control. I don't know how many of you feel this, but if you remember the old Western when the horses suddenly started to run and the stagecoach is bucking along behind, something's bad's happening. That's where we are, I feel like.